Hello BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my May 2018 TBR. Say it with me everybody. Yay! TBR time! You guys know how much I love getting a new TBR every month. It's like a fresh start every month. So this, I don't want this to be a horribly long video, so let's jump right in. So as usual, I base all of my TBR off of the challenges that I'm doing every month, or the two challenges that I know about, excuse me. The first one being the RRC, or the Romance Readers Reading Group on Goodreads. Every month they release a monthly challenge which gives you 10 prompts, and you need to pick a book for each prompt. You don't have to do all 10. You can pick and choose which ones you want to do. And I pick books for all 10. And then the other challenge is the What to Read in 2018 challenge, which I can't remember what group it is on Goodreads that puts that one out, but I will leave links to both of them in the description box below. So for that challenge, they give you, you need to read 42 books over the course of a year, and they give you different prompts for each book. So yeah, and those ones I just kind of pick and choose every month. I literally do a random number generator from 1 to 42 and just kind of pick random numbers for which challenges I'm going to do each month. So let's start off with the Romance Readers Reading Challenge. So the first category is M is for May. Read a book that starts with M, or a book whose author's first or last name starts with an M. So I went with The Chocolate Touch by McClone. This I'm going to be reading on ebook, and it is book number 8 in the Love at the Chocolate Shop series. I don't know much about this book, but I am reading through this series this year, and I'm very much looking forward to it. McClone fits perfectly for the letter M. Category number 2 is Olympian Gods and Goddesses Athena. So every month they're picking a different god or goddess from Greek mythology, and they give you prompts. So it says, Athena was the goddess of war, the female counterpart of Ares. She is one of the 3 virgin goddesses. The other 2 were Hysteria and Artemis. Athena served as a guardian of Athens, where the Parthenon served as her temple. Read a book with a parent guardian character, or a book that is part of a trilogy, or a goddess in the story. So this one, not that I had a hard time with it, but I was kind of like, which, you know, I could go with a parent-child relationship, like something that had that in it. Goddess, I really don't read that, you know, the more paranormal that would fall under. But then I'm like, well, trilogy, what, are there any trilogies that I'm currently reading? So I went back to my my list from last year, because I still have my list of all the series that I started last year. And I looked through them and I realized that there is a YA trilogy that I'm actually reading, and I need to read the 3rd book. And that is Long Way Home by McGarry. This is book number 3, the 3rd and final book in the Thunder Road trilogy. And this is a YA series about a biker gang, essentially. And I really, really liked the first 2 books. And when I finished reading book number 2, it would have been early in 2017. I said at that time, I really need to get and read book number 3, and I haven't yet. So this is a perfect chance for me to do so. And it's available on audio from my library. And it's being narrated on audio by M. Eldridge and Cody Hammersmith. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. Category number 3 is Featured Author Challenge. For this month, it's Ilona Andrews. I think I'm saying her name correctly. She again writes the paranormal type of books. And again, not my personal taste. So I looked for something else that would fit. And it is read a book by an author who is also from Texas. Or you can read any book shelved as fantasy, or a book with an animal or child on the cover. Or you may read a book with a team in the story. So this actually kind of fits 2 different ones potentially. This book is shelved as a fantasy novel. I don't know why. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's not that kind of fantasy. It's not the fantasy like sci-fi fantasy, but this also contains a team. But the book I'm going to be reading is Darkest Journey by Heather Graham. This is the Crew of Hunters book number 20, and it's being narrated on audio by Luke Daniels. Of course, I will be listening to this one on audio. Yeah, for some reason on Goodreads it's shelved as a fantasy. I guess I can kind of see it, because this does contain that supernatural element of ghosts and spirits. But when I think fantasy, this is not what I think of. When I think fantasy, I think like Lord of the Rings. But regardless, but it does actually have a team in the story. Of course, the team of the Crew of Hunters, so this works. Category number 4 is May the 1st is International Workers' Day, also known as Labor's Day or Workers' Day in some countries. It is often referred to as May Day, is the celebration of laborers and the working classes that is promoted by international labor movement, which occurs every year on May the 1st. An ancient European spring festival. That's also what it is. Read a book with a springy cover, or the main character is of the working class or has a 5 and a 1 in the page count. So the book I'm reading, if you saw my latest book haul, you'll have seen this one already, and that is Must Love Otters by Eliza Gordon. This is part of the Audible Romance package, so I'll be grabbing it from there. It's being narrated by Romy Nordlinger. And this is about a woman who is having a really rough go of it lately, and she decides to use the spa gift certificate that was given to her by her parents and go spend a week at a spa. Now, this is actually more of a chick lit book than it is a contemporary romance. I differentiate the two, that the contemporary romance is about the romance, whereas a chick lit book is more about the growth of the character, if that makes sense. This one definitely has a springy cover to me. Oops, I almost dropped my tablet. With those rain boots or those galoshes that she's wearing, those bright yellow galoshes, that just screams like springtime weather to me. So I'm really looking forward to finally getting to this one. I've had, not finally because I just bought it, but I've had this book on my want to read, or my my wish list on Amazon for quite some time. So I'm glad I'm finally going to get to it. Category number 5. May is National Barbecue Month in the U.S. Barbecue originally referred to pork cooked over high smoke fuel like wood or charcoal. The term has now come to include other meats and foods, and refers to more of the cooking method rather than the specific dish. The method is commonly believed to have originated from Aboriginal peoples in the Caribbean and Florida, where the word barbecue first entered the English language as barbecua, which translates as sacred fire pit. I did not know that. Read a book that has a chef, baker, or cook character, or is set in the southern U.S., where barbecue is king, or features a hunk of beef, and they have beef in quotation marks, a naked person, or fire on the cover. So the book I'm reading is Returning Pride by Jill Sanders. This is book number 3 in the Pride series. The main character in this story, the male lead, is a chef, and he owns a restaurant, so it fits. This is part of the Audible Romance package, so I'm looking forward to this one, and it's narrated on audio by Tanya Ebby, so this one should be great. Category number 6. May the 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. As someone who still has never seen Star Wars. I should really take video one day for you guys of my husband's Star Wars room, because those of you who love Star Wars would probably get a kick out of it. Celebrated and observed by fans of George Lucas's epic Star Wars franchise. The date was chosen for the pun on the catchphrase, May the Force be with you. Some fans also recognize the next day, May the 5th, as Revenge of the 5th. A play on Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which celebrates the Sith Lords and other villainous characters from the franchise. Read a book that has a star on the cover or in the title, or features opposing groups of heroes and villains, like the Jedi and the Sith, or has all the letters of Star Wars in the title and author's names, any order, and yes, S, R, and A must be counted twice. This is the category that took me the longest. I went through my TBR. I could not find any books that had the word star in the title, or that had a star on the cover, or nothing that was blatantly obvious, you know, without literally clicking on every book to blow up and see the cover. The whole heroes and villains thing, I couldn't really do because I don't read those types of stories. And so I decided to try and spell out Star Wars. And I did. It took me about a half an hour to find a book. But this is actually one of a series that I have started, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing it. And the book is The Friends We Keep by Susan Mallery. So if you want to go ahead and write that down, and I did it. I had the hardest time. I'd start being like, yes, this book is going to fit. Then be like, oh, it's only got one A, you know, like something like that. Oh, it was really frustrating, you guys. But yes, Star Wars is spelled in both the title and the author's name in full. And this is book number 2 in the Mischief Bay series. This is another contemporary romance / chick lit type novel. I put this more on the chick lit side of it. The first book in the series was so good. Again, I'm going to be listening to this one on audio, and it is also going to be narrated by Tanya Ebby. So I am very much looking forward to this one. Category number 7 is May the 8th is World Red Cross Day. The Red Cross provides humanitarian efforts and disaster relief around the world, wherever it is needed. May the 8th remembers and recognizes the efforts of the National Red Cross and the Red Crescent Societies worldwide. Worldwide efforts to advocate for the relief of human suffering, whether from disease, famine, disaster, or war. In America on May the 8th, the American Red Cross, puts special focus on U.S. programs that keep children healthy and safe around the globe. Read a book with red or a cross on the cover, or has a character who is a doctor, nurse, / volunteer, or is tagged as YA. So the book I'm actually going to be reading, this is a brand new release. I just grabbed a copy of it on ebook from the Harlequin website using my points. And it is The Doctor's Recovery by Cari Lynn Webb. This is about a doctor who himself is in kind of need of medical intervention in a way, and it's a romance. It's part of the Harlequin Heartwarming line, which is a line I'm really starting to enjoy. It sounds really adorable. Like I said, it is a brand new release for May, so it'll be kind of fun to actually be reading a new release, because that's not something I generally do. I am a big backlist reader, so I kind of searched around on the Harlequin website because they often have a lot of physician and doctor type romances, and this one jumped out at me, so I decided to give this one a shot. Next up, the 8th category. May the 13th is Mother's Day. The first Mother's Day in the U.S. was on May the 10th, 1908 in Philadelphia. Everybody has a mother, and absolutely no one is more special than Mom. Sure, Dad is really important, and grandparents too. But moms, well, they are just the greatest. I agree. My dad's the greatest too, but you know, that's my personal. Often taken for granted, they are always our strongest supporter. It's true. You can't do wrong in Mom's eyes. No, that's not true. You can't do wrong in Grandma's eyes. Stuff that my brother and I would have gotten in deep doo-doo for, my niece can get away with the blink of an eye. You know, like, it's a grandchild thing. So the prompts for this one is read a book with a prominent mom character, either good or bad, or with flowers on the cover, or with the numbers 1908 in the page count and publication date. Any order can be combined. So the book I'm going to be reading is Because of the Baby by Cat Shield. This I'll be reading on ebook. It is book number 4 in the Texas Cattlemen's Club After the Storm series. This series kind of has, I mentioned it before, this series is about a small town in Texas that has been devastated by a tornado, and how all the residents are kind of dealing with, like, each individual stories about how different people are dealing with it. This is the story of a woman who, after the tornado, she's found in a coma. She was badly injured in the tornado. She's pregnant, and they had to induce the baby. So it's now like 4 months later since the tornado, and she is now out of the coma, and the baby was born in, you know, whatever, and it's, you know, trying to figure out who the father, well, not trying to figure out who the father is. She knew who the dad was, but she's been in a coma, so she really couldn't say. And, you know, with the relationship with her and the father and things like that. So it sounds like it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Category number 9. May the 27th is World Goth Day. Originated in the UK in 2009, World Goth Day has quickly spread and is now celebrated in many countries around the world. Goth is not just about wearing black clothing, it's a whole culture. Read a book with a goth or a bad boy or girl character, or with music and fashion in the storyline, or with an author born in the UK. And the book that I will be reading is Some Kind of Wonderful by Sarah Morgan. Yes, she was born in the UK, she is a UK author, but she writes predominantly stories that are set in the US, as far as I know. I think a lot of her Harlequin Presents books that she used to write were set in the UK, but she's now moved across the pond, if you will, with her stories. And I like either or. I would be happy if her books were set in the UK, or happy. I don't care, as long as she continues to write, because I love her stuff. But this is book number 2 in the Puffin Island series, so I'm very much looking forward to finally continuing on with this one. They had written this one, but the third one was never published. And I kind of put brakes on the series because I didn't want to continue on to book 2 and not be able to continue on to book 3. Book 3 has now been published on ebook, so I can now read it, so yay. But yeah, I am very much looking forward to this one. It is small town romance. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Category number 10, Reader's Choice. Read any book of your choice. So I am trying to get these Love and Bloom books in every month because I do have 10 of them to read this year, and none of them are Christmas books, so I can't read any of them in December. So I'm trying to fit in one a month just to get them done, because it is my biggest series for the Stacking the Series challenge. And the book I'm going to be reading is Lovers at Heart by Melissa Foster. This will be on audio. It is book number 4 in the Love and Bloom series, but book number 1 in the Bradens at Weston, Colorado series. So as I've explained before, but in case you're new, the Love and Bloom series is a huge series that is written by Melissa Foster. And there is a definite reading order to them. 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously they're numbered. But within that 80 book series, because I'm not kidding guys, there are 80 some odd books in the series. She has them broken down into sub-series. So this is the first book in one of the sub-series within that larger series. And this is going to be narrated on audio by BJ Harrison. So yeah, I am looking forward to getting to that one as well. The next book that I want to talk about on my TBR is, of course, my TBR jar pick for May. And if you watched my Anticipated Reads Rewind video, you know this book already. It is Finding Our Forever by Brenda Novak. I will be reading it on audio. It's part of the Audible Romance package. It's the first book in the Silver Springs series, and it's being narrated on audio by Veronica Worthington. This is a contemporary romance novel. Brenda Novak is a great author, and I am very much looking forward to it. Now into my what to read for 2018. I only have 3 books. That's 3 books for this. So let me tell you about them. The first task that I picked was task number 18, which was list your TBR by 40 books per page and sort it by your title A or Z to A. So you're going backwards. Pick any book off the first page. So I started scrolling through those 40 books and I'm like, okay, that one I could read. That one looks good. That one looks like it might be good too. And then I came to this one and I went, yes. I read this book years and years and years ago before I even joined Goodreads. And when I joined Goodreads and I put it back on my shelf, I didn't mark it as a book that I had read. I marked it as a to be read because I wanted to read it again because it was so good. And that book is Winter Garden by Kristin Hannah. This I will be listening to on Audible or on audio. It is being narrated by Susan Erickson. Guys, this book blew me away. I read this well before The Nightingale came out. I mean, Kristin Hannah was always a well-known author. But I think The Nightingale is what took her up into the stratosphere of people knowing who she was. Winter Garden, though, I think is because it's an older book, is one that kind of flies under the radar quite often that a lot of people don't know about it. I found this book at a used bookstore years ago, and the cover drew me in, so I picked it up. This is a historical fiction novel, and it's about 2 sisters in modern day. So it kind of does that whole modern to historical kind of time frame. And these 2 sisters are older. One is married with children. The other one is like a freelance photographer as a job. And their parents are older and their father is dying. Now, when they were little girls, their mother used to tell them this Russian fairy tale. You know, all about a prince and a princess and living in this castle and blah, blah, blah. But she only ever got so far in the story and never really finished the story. Well, now that their father is dying, the father's dying wish is that the mother finish telling the girls this fairy tale. Well, it turns out it's not a fairy tale that she's been telling them. It's kind of her life. And it's about the Second World War. And she, of course, you know, makes it seem like the beginning of it's very magical. The time leading up to the war. But then it leads into the time of the Second World War. And until I read this book, I mean, you hear in history class, you hear all about World War II. And the absolute horrific things that happened to the Jewish people and things like that with the concentration camps and what have you. And it's utterly heartbreaking that humans could do that to other humans. But I didn't know, or it wasn't touched upon as much, what happened in Russia, what happened in St. Petersburg during the Second World War. And this book broke me. I mean, this book was absolutely heart-wrenchingly well written. I was in tears the first time I read this book towards the end. And I anticipate that happening again. I read it the first time as a print book, and I'm going to listen to it this time on audio. So hopefully, you know, we'll see. I'll try not to listen to, I'll know when I'm getting to those parts, try not to listen to them at work. I am a very emotional person, and I am one who tends to read or cry when I'm reading books if it gets sad, especially if an animal dies. But this book, it's horrific, absolutely horrific, and I was not expecting it. Do you know what I mean? So good. I could not recommend this book enough, you guys. So my next book for this challenge is task number 19, which is pick a list on Listopia and read a book off of it. Be sure to tell us what list you picked from. I knew I wanted to read this book because I want to finish this series. There are 4 books in the series. I read book number 3 in April, and I want to read and finish the series in May because book number 3 ends and you find out what's going to happen in this book. And it's one of those things where the first 3 books you're reading it and you're not expecting this twist to happen for the 4th book. And that book is Never Judge a Lady by Her Cover by Sarah Maclean. This is book number 4, of course, in the Rules of Scoundrel series. I will be listening to it on audio from my library, and it's being narrated by Justine Irie. The list it came from, in case you're curious, is favorite historical romance novels. Just in case you're curious. This series is so good. So good. And this final book, it was the last page of the book, literally. Like, if I had been reading it in a print book and not listening to it on audio, literally the last page, the throwaway line at the very end is something about this book, and you're like, WTF? Like, and now I desperately want to read it, so I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait. I do not want to say anything for those of you who have not read the series. If you've read the series, you probably know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, I love this series so much. If you like historical romance, definitely check this series out. And my last book on my TBR for this month, or for May, is task number 6. And that is read a book off your TBR that is by a new to you author. I cheated on this one just a tad. I've read this author before many years ago, but it was before I was on Goodreads. So it could be a new to me author since I've been on Goodreads. And that book is A Sweetheart for Jude Fortune by Cindy Kirk. This is book number 2 in the Fortunes of Texas Welcome to Horseback Hollow series. I am really trying to focus on series I've already started. That is big for me. I have so many series that I've already started that I need to read through some of them. So any chance that I can pick and fit a book from a series that I'm currently reading in, I absolutely will, and I did in this case. This is a Harlequin Special Edition. It is a small town romance set in a town called Horseback Hollow in Texas, and I really enjoy them, and I cannot wait to get to this one. Anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. And until my next video, guys, take care and happy reading. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.